so I think we will go ahead and get started. If anybody misses our opening, they'll catch up. So welcome. If this is your first time with us at our Fireside Chats, thank you for being here. We'll be here for about 20 to 30 minutes today. And during these sessions, we offer a mix of training, industry insights, and most recently, we've been talking a lot about the COVID-19 crisis and how we are getting through that. But overall, our efforts are intended to help the merchant services industry stay connected, informed, and inspired. So today, as we continue to kind of journey through this new world that we are experiencing, we've been talking a lot about silver linings. What are some of the silver linings we're seeing behind the dark storm clouds of COVID-19? However, there are more than just silver linings. We are also faced with really some brand new opportunities. We're looking forward to some really new and exciting things on the other side of this crisis. So we wanted to talk about some of those today, and specifically related to possibilities with things like AI, technology, and automation. So many of you may have seen some of these terms on Navigator's platform. You might have seen AI powered this, or heard about how we use artificial intelligence. We want to talk a little bit more about that today. We're going to take a deeper dive and talk about how that can benefit our users both now and in the future. So today we do have a special guest. He pops in with us sometimes, but he's not always here. We have Adrian Talapan today. Adrian, I'm wondering, would you introduce yourself and tell our listeners what you do with Navigator?
Sure, I'm Adrian Talapan. I'm co-founder and CEO of Navigator, whereas Ayan is the industry knowledge expert, my co-founder, and brings the industry know-how. I essentially bring the technology and the entrepreneurship experience. This is my fourth business, and I love data. At my previous business, I did a partnership with Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. We work through billions of data points and looking to identify patients that may be snooping on, providers that may be snooping on patients' data, as well as help with operational efficiency. And yeah, it's exciting to be here. I look forward to sharing a little bit of like how we do things, what's happening in the kitchen, and hopefully answer your questions as to what does AI, what does the future look like, and how it will impact the payments industry.
Okay, thank you very much. You may also notice that we do have Ion with us as well this morning, and Ben Schmink, who are our regular contributors to the show here. We are going to let them off the hook for the majority of the questions this morning, and Adrian is in the hot seat. So if you guys can grab a cup of coffee, hang out, and we are going to get started. I'm actually excited for this interview today. I'm excited to hear a little bit more from Adrian about, like you said, that kind of what are you cooking up in the kitchen, what's happening under the hood. So my first question for you today, just kind of bring us all to a even playing field, or just level the field for us. What is AI? Straight up.
Yeah, so it's one of those popular terms that everybody thinks that they understand what it is, but nobody really knows. So it's a kind of a catch-all for like something very smart. So the technical underpinning of AI is really machine learning, and the technology for that came from 1970s. So in the 1970s, they came up with a mathematical constructs called neural nets, neural networks, and you can think of them as sort of a series of knobs, a series of layers with knobs at each layer. And so the information would propagate forward, and you can turn around some of these knobs, go to a certain point, and then come back. And based on the information that you've measured at the end, you come back and you shift these knobs differently. And then you go back and forth until you were able to capture the information in the data. And then, so like in the 1980s, they came up with genetic algorithms based on nature. And so there was a lot of, if you look back into 1970s, 1980s, like, oh, it's great, neural nets, like the future, right? But nothing really came out. Nothing really happened. And the problem was that the technology was not advanced enough. And in the 2000s, and I think 2010s, after that, Google ran this massive project where they said, well, let's identify all the cats out there. And so they got the massive computing power, and they went through a gazillion of videos, and they realized that, oh wait, this stuff actually works and works well. So that's that was part of deep learning. So like coming back, what is machine learning? So machine learning can be split in 4 categories. So it's supervised machine learning, which is essentially you train the machine. You say, look, take the example of cats. You say, well, I'm going to feed you 1,000,000 pictures of cats, and I'm going to call each one of them cats. And then you figure out what's common amongst them. And then so that way, if I give you a new cat, you identify what it is. And so this technology, supervised machine learning, is really what's powering Alexa, what's powering Siri, what do you call smart, like voice recognition. When you say, hey, I'm not gonna say Alexa because it's gonna do something, but like, playing something. So it converts the audio waveform into text, and then from there it can get processed. So that's the supervised machine learning, and that's again has been is the technology we most associate with AI, where it just works. Then there's the unsupervised machine learning, and that's where you say, look, here's a bunch of data, I don't know anything about it, figure it out. And what the machine is trying to do is trying to do clustering, essentially trying to group the data together in various areas, or do what's called dimensionality reduction, which is, in a multi-dimensional plane. Many times what machine learning is trying to do is essentially draw a line, like a virtual line, if you can imagine, to separate the data. And if the data is very complex, it has to draw lots of different wiggly lines in lots of different dimensions to be able to separate that. So it's trying to make the problem simpler. So that's the other part. And some applications of unsupervised machine learning that you might think of would be detecting signal from noise, would be outlier detection. So let's say, if you're normally averaging, let's say $1,000 on your credit card in certain types of transactions, and suddenly there's a spike, like a unsupervised machine learning algorithm can quickly pick up that difference. And the point is that you don't have to specifically program for that. It just is able to pick it up as different. And then there's the semi-supervised machine learning, where you say that, well, I have a bunch of data that is labeled, so I wanted to learn how to identify these things. But you also have a lot of data that's unlabeled. And the idea is that you can use the unlabeled data and provide more insight into the labels that you have. So that way it can learn faster. And then the last part is reinforced learning. And this is really cool, because I think, when people think of AI, this is probably the thing that comes closer to mind. And the thing about reinforced learning is that you're an agent in that environment, and your goal, AI, is to come up with a set of policies, a set of rules, a set of governance mechanisms to attain some objectives. And you essentially reinforce, literally, you reward the machine for getting closer to those objectives, and you punish it for getting away from it. So this is how OpenAI, for example, and DeepMind have sort of evolved their algorithms. So when you hear that the computer learned to play Atari games, or the computer learned to play whatever games, this is the area of machine learning that matters a lot. So when it comes to self-driving, for example, part of it is use some supervised ML to recognize indicators and traffic lights, and it uses reinforcement learning to figure out what it should do. So okay, I see what it is, but like, what should I be doing in this case? So yeah, so these are the 4 areas of AI, and these are the underpinnings of it. But again, AI is a term that's being thrown in. It's like a folksy term. It's a catch-all concept. So
Got it. So let me ask you this, because again, myself being much more representative of the layman population, when I think AI, I'm thinking things, pop culture references like Blade Runner, Data from Star Trek, The Matrix, and those are the things that I think a lot of people think of, myself included, when we think of AI. That type of intelligence, does that fit into one of those categories that you were just talking about, or does it even exist? Are we close to that? How far away are we from that? Can you just give us a few comments on that?
yeah, the closest thing to that would be reinforcement learning, but no, we're not there yet. So the technical term is AGI, the artificial general intelligence, and this is what OpenAI and this is what DeepMind, which was acquired by Google, they're trying to do. So when you look at AlphaGo, so AlphaGo is a computer algorithm that won against the best Go players in the world. And the interesting thing about Go is that you cannot apply a rule-based system that you may be able to apply in chess, because the number of options is essentially like not infinite, but it's a humongous number. So you cannot do that. And this is where the creativity of the player matters a lot. So AlphaGo used reinforcement learning to come up with a set of policies that essentially learn the rules from humans, and then it played against itself and essentially became the best. And then a few years later, this new algorithm came out and essentially was beating everybody. So then we found out it was called AlphaGo Zero, and so this was an algorithm that again started as reinforcement learning, and but it did not have human input. It learned by itself from zero, and so it had like 100 matches against AlphaGo, the original AlphaGo that beat everybody in the world, like the best players. And so after 100 games, the score was AlphaGo 0, 100, AlphaGo 0, which essentially points out that the way we humans learn is weak. So we have deficiencies in the way we learn. So sort of like AlphaGo 0 is like the thing of the future. But that's still pretty much, you define the world. It's not there yet. With artificial general intelligence, the idea is that you would tell Alexa or Google or Siri, hey, build me make me a car. They can fly, can act as a boat, can go, like, you can define the requirements, and then machine will figure out, okay, how do I take this? How do I structure information? How do I break it down? How do I essentially create the specifications? And then there's a part of robotics that you can sort of pass this through, and then imagine there's a assembly line that can take this, put it together, and essentially create that thing for you, and have a drone drop it in front of your house. I mean, that's like the cool thing. Are we there yet? No, nowhere close. And to be able to get there, probably we need to have the convergence between artificial general intelligence, which is still very nascent and kind of still evolving, and quantum computing, which itself is still nascent, is like very complex. But yeah, we're not there yet. But who knows? At the rate things are evolving, maybe we'll get there sooner rather than later.
Very exciting. So it is possible. We're not here yet, but these things are maybe not outside the realm of possibility for the future. So that's cool. That's exciting. Let's bring this around to Fee Navigator a little bit, because again, as I mentioned in the beginning of the call, I see these terms kind of sprinkled throughout the Fee Navigator platform. But can you talk about kind of what does that really mean? So the tools that I think of are the analysis tool, and then also the email bot. How does that work? How does AI support those functions, or what does that really mean?
Yeah. So we could not do what we're doing today without AI. So we use AI uh, in a supervised and semi-supervised mode to basically help us identify all the thousands of different variations of statements. So we get a statement, we pass it through OCR. OCR itself, the provider we use is using some elements of machine learning to identify tables, to identify numbers, and get us information, and then we train our AI to look at these statements and know what type of statement they're looking at. And then from there, it goes through our decision tree mechanisms, and we pull the necessary data and do our calculations. So our merchant statement analysis is definitely predicated on AI, and you can see what the AI recognizes when you go into the application, and if it doesn't work in the AI do it yourself, you can see on the right side what AI recognized. Or you can just, even for something that has been completely correctly done, you can click on the little edit icon and be able to see there. Now, in terms of the email bot, so everybody soon in the Navigator platform will have access to their own bot. And the idea there is that it's a communication channel. So initially you pass the statement over to our technology platform, and you get back the analysis. But in the future, we envision doing all sorts of other things on that communication channel. So that's how we use AI in Navigator.
That's very cool. And then another term that I see on there too, just one more kind of technical question before we get real into some of this stuff, is the term automation. I know that's something that Fee Navigator, strives to automate some processes for their users. What does that mean, and how does that synergize with AI?
Yeah, so when you think of automation, you think more you initially think of robotics, right? So you may have a Roomba robot at home to clean stuff up, or you may have. Actually, I remember I went like 5 years ago. I was in Germany. I visited a BMW factory in Munich, and so we had a tour, and there was nobody. There was only one person, and that was like holding the coffee and walking with us. And so the machines would literally do everything. So you could see them grab a panel, put it together. They would do quality control, all of that. And it was, you're in a factory floor. You think it's dirt, it's messy. It's like it was pristine. Like the floor was as if you were walking into a hospital. So when you think of automation, you think of these sort of like the robotics and the technology. Any assembly line nowadays is making massive use of this. In the white collar jobs, the like automation comes in the form of automating BPM, business process management. So business process management initially, so it was done internally and then was outsourced to lower areas. So you have a lot of BPM capability in India, for example. And now the technology evolved well enough, so that way nowadays you can have a let's say if you're a lawyer, you can have a machine that's looking up some obscure text somewhere, and it's writing a brief about it that you can present, or you can have the automatic summarization of a public company's quarterly release. So when it comes to the payments industry, I think what you see more and more, what you're going to be seeing more and more, is that automation comes in the form of removing anything mundane, anything that is nobody really wants to do. So similar analysis, I would say, it kind of fits in that category. It's you have to do it because you have to do it, but you don't enjoy doing it. You'd rather do something else. And yeah, so as technology evolves, those sort of kind of important line of critical line of business applications will get automated more and more, and free the people to focus on the areas that provide a better return on their creativity and their energy. So that's how I'm seeing automation happening.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, what many of us in various roles are looking forward to or enjoying about some of our technological advances and automation. It's taking out the stuff we don't want to do. It's taking out the stuff that's time consuming, it's tedious, it's boring, so we can focus our efforts elsewhere. Really fascinating insights. It's really good to hear some of your expertise today, Adrian, because I know that you are the mastermind behind a lot of those processes on Fee Navigator. So let's get real with this information for a minute, though, in our last time together. How does all this stuff benefit Fee Navigator users today? Why is it important? I'll ask Adrian that first, and then we may ask Ian if he has any thoughts as well.
So first, we could not have done this what we do without AI. And I guess the benefit to the industry is that it helps remove these mundane activity that you need to do, but you kind of don't want to do. And as we accelerate our development, we have a few tens of thousands statements right now. But as we accelerate, I think that the thing that's really exciting for us is to sort of bring that real-time market intelligence to the industry. So that way you can make decisions when it comes to optimal pricing, when it comes to identifying competitive niches and whatever sort of concept you have, backed by data, backed by essentially near real-time data. So that's where Fee Navigator is today. That's the sort of future that it will enable the industry to get to, and we're very excited to really help organize all this information out there and help the industry move sort of on a higher plane.
Got it. Very good. And then Ion, we would be remiss if we didn't hear from you at all today, even if it's a sentence or two. Any thoughts about that? What does all this stuff matter? How give us your perspective.
Well, Adrian speaks about AI. Ion speaks about HR. Human intelligence component of our solution, I think, is really important. I'm not scared that AI will replace myself, because AI will never be an Ion. But AI can use the knowledge Ion developed over years. And human intelligence, you talk about the connection with people, the emotional interactions, the physical interactions. Now, during this current time, when merchant sales rep are restricted to go to meet in person with merchants, they must look at adopting the digital sales. And Fee Navigator is positioned to arm those agents with tools that allow them to basically start doing digital sales, meaning they do prospecting digitally without having to meet with a client. They present a statement analysis digitally without having to meet with a client. They connect with the client to the GoToMeeting or virtual meeting and present a proposal or present a solution via digital, sending a application via digital to sign electronically. So those are the components that most of them are being touched by Fee Navigator technology, which, in my personal opinion, will be a must for anyone in the payments industry to adopt and use in order to be successful moving forward.
Awesome, thank you. And then my last question then, before we open it up, just to see if there are any final questions from any listeners, is again, just focusing on the future. Is Fee Navigator's AI technology continuing to evolve? Is it learning, it's growing, better? And what kind of benefits will that bring to users? I also know that you guys have been hinting around at some new functionalities, wondering if you're ready to give anything away today. So I'll kind of keep that in the question, if that comes together, great. But just wondering, how will Fee Navigator's continued steps into the AI field, how will that benefit people who are on the platform today and in the future?
So we believe that that we can help the industry acquire and retain merchants in the smartest, most effective, most efficient way. And so we are sort of reassembling our tool set towards our goal. So we started in AI merchant statement analysis. That will continue to be sort of our bedrock because it's a critical component for automation and market intelligence. But the toolset that we have with the lead funnel unlimited, with the email bots, will sort of open up the possibilities to reach out directly to merchants. And what's going to be coming soon will be these hybrid accounts where you can have you and your people, your team, as well as you can invite merchants to your account. So what's exciting about this is that right now, if you go to a merchant and they're not ready to commit to you, you kind of go away and you put a reminder on your calendar to come back to them, in a few months. Maybe they may not be in the same situation, and you don't know anything about them. So what's going to be what we're making available and we'll release soon will be your ability to offer the merchant for free, including in your plan, the ability for them to do automatic statement monitoring, rate monitoring. So they get to keep a close eye on their fees, and then you get to see statements from them as they come through, and then you'll be in best position to help them. So that's with lead, that we call that lead nurturing. And then we'll also have the ability for you to sort of keep a closer eye on the merchants who are most at risk of leaving. And so for retention purposes, you'll be able to offer those accounts the same sort of capability where they they have access to automatic fee monitoring. And again, you get to see what's happening and be in the best position to react. And so we're excited about this. We continue to double down on and evolve our AI-based merchant statement analysis, but really wrap it around and deliver it as a capability in a larger suite of powerful solutions to help ISOs, agents, merchant reps really accelerate their growth.
Yeah, Dale, question.
Oh my goodness, I am so excited by what you just said, Adrian. Okay, because when you talked about the old model of going away and coming back, and I couldn't help thinking about the old model of POS, which was a place where you walk up, you conduct a transaction, and then you go away. That is disappearing because payments is everywhere. It's invisible, it's embedded. And what you just brought up is very, very similar to what I would describe as a new paradigm of selling, which is you don't necessarily have a sales call, shake hands and say, thank you for your time. I'll come back again soon, or I'll see you soon. We're not really transacting that way anymore. But what you're bringing up is so valuable because it's not just the fact that you're offering them a freemium where they may eventually upgrade to a premium, a paid model, you're actually building community, and you're also developing a proof of concept. And I think that's so strong, and it's so fresh, and it's so appropriate to the environment that we're living in. I just really love that.
Thank you, Dale.
So I just wanted to give you a shout out because I think it's fantastic.
We do have in the works sort of the AI virtual agent, we call it AVA, that's going to be coming out later. So to really sort of do what you're saying, that's exactly the direction which we're going. Make it super easy, help to really supercharge your powers.
Excellent.
Good stuff. Other questions? Just pause for a moment to see if anybody wants to chime in.
Living and working down here on the farm, I always thought AI stood for artificial insemination, so I learned a lot today.
It's been very educational for all of us, for sure. Any other questions? Either about any of the technological terms or any of the things we covered earlier in the call, or other questions about what we alluded to. Yeah, Dale, go ahead.
Okay, I can't help it. I interview a lot of people who work with AI in various ways. And one of the things that just keeps coming up in our interviews is the executives I interview, they fall in love with the AI. They can't help it. You're teaching something, you're watching it grow, you're watching it figure things out. I'm wondering if you've had a similar experience as you've been working with supervised learning.
So initially when we started, we had IONS merchant statements, and so there are quite a few, but they did not have that much diversity. And then as we developed partnerships with the industry, we got more diversity. And so initially, when the first model that we created was not based on AI, and we got to a bunch of the degree of complexity due to having all sorts of rules. It just became unbearable. So when we brought in AI, it was kind of like you kind of like push a button and it's done. It's like, wow, all that complexity that like it's so difficult to manage, and it's just done, and it's done better. It's done accurately. It's very exciting, and so with the AI, it's both the technology and it's also the process. So as we get more statements and we come across things that we have not seen before, we have to retrain the AI to take that into account and do the other components. But I think the biggest impact for us has been you had this massive complexity that really limited your ability to grow and provide value to the industry. And then you brought in the AI. All that complexity just completely went away and freed your mind to really focus on the things that the way you can produce a lot of value. And yeah, every time the rate of new statements that we get in has slowed down significantly. I think maybe we're getting close to the edge of the universe in statements in the US at least. So that's exciting. But just the whole complexity disappearing. It's kind of like imagine if you're in bed and then you wake up one day and it's all gone. It's kind of like that. It's it's very refreshing.
Very cool. Ion, anything to add to that?
Yes, I'd like to reveal some more information about what's coming next week, and also to ask Ben and Matthew, who are on the call, who are using FiNavigator every day, to share their last success story they had using FiNavigator. I know Matt has some recent success with FiNavigator. But the piece of information I'd like to reveal for next week, what's coming, and give some hints to people, We in merchant services love acronyms, and Adrian, it's tired of me coming up with all these acronyms. And we have a internal name for the new package that's coming next week. We call it STAR package, STAR, that stands for Sales Team Acceleration and Retention Package. So that's the only thing I want to give people here on this call today, and sure by next week everyone will know what that is. And I'd like to give the floor to Matthew and Ben, if they can share, and actually I see Pete Becker as well, and Lisa. I would love to hear some success stories from the people who are using Navigator as it is today, because tomorrow will be 10 times better. I like Don's 10x sign there. Our solution will be 10x better next week. I'm so excited about it. I'm pumped up. And Adrian is tired. He said, when we go? I want to go out. I want to sell this product. I want to put this in the people's hands next week. And he cannot hold me anymore. I'm done. I cannot wait anymore. Go ahead, guys. I'll let you give some testimonials, please.
Okay. Well, if we could, I see Ben's microphone is lit. He may be ready to go. Ben, if you don't mind, just give us a quick comment.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully I can stick in. My internet is just awful again today. So yeah, actually I closed a deal today remotely. I had a business up in Pennsylvania, ironically. I'm down here in Tennessee through a series of referrals. Thank you, Pete Beckery. I got in touch with a guy up in Harrisburg, and I had to shoot his statement up to Navigator so I could actually have the analysis done. So it was a perfect combination of technology, human interaction and partnership. Again, thank you, Pete. Without me having to see this client face to face, I was able to do what this merchant needed to get done with very, very little interaction other than him emailing the statement to Navigator. So it worked out perfectly.
Cool stuff. Thank you, Ben. Matt, if you would indulge us, if you are available.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share. Sorry, I'm in my rental shop today. Sorry for the background. I had a really big client recently that I was able to connect with on LinkedIn. And usually in the past, I've been using Navigator to try to get referrals with a link where people can upload their own statement. It would give me introductions to people. And it's been good for that. But in this case, it was the opposite. I was able to connect with somebody on LinkedIn who was interested in my services. They work with a very large company, or fairly large company, with 22 stores, and they gave me all of their merchant statements, including a wholesale statement as well. So it was a really big opportunity for me, and I had this big presentation that I had to make to their financial staff, which was a little bit daunting considering there's so many statements to go through and so much data to pour over, and to be able to simplify for them and the presentation that I had to give. But Navigator was great. I was able to do the scan of a few example statements, and to be able to show them exactly how I was going to save them and their company money using the results from those scans that uploads into this really nice looking Excel spreadsheet that's easy for us all to understand. I was able to use those spreadsheets in my presentation to show them where the different savings would be, what they were paying currently, what goes to what, do a lot of explanation. It really made me look like this high-class professional, which I try to be, but don't always look like I am. And so it was a great tool, and it really made me shine, and it was a great help for this presentation. And I think it was a definite wow factor for the presentation. So thank you, Navigator.
Good stuff. All right, very good. So thank you to all of you for joining us today. Really appreciate you guys weighing in at the end and giving some of your personal experiences, your thoughts. Thank you, Adrian, for being with us today and giving us your insights, teaching us a little bit more about what's kind of going on in the back end. And I think we are all excited for what is to come in the next couple of weeks. I would imagine that over the course of our next few Fireside Chats, we'll probably get into some more of these tools more in depth as they become available to you. So we definitely look forward to that. We will see you guys next week at 11 a.m. Eastern Time right here. Have a great week, and thank you for tuning in. See you soon.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Much. See ya.